Hi, everyone. We're Jonny and Jen Clark. We lead the work here in Rostrevor, right on the Irish border, YWAM Rostrevor, and a base that we call An Cuan. We were given this place 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago in 2010. It had been a center of reconciliation and a center of the charismatic renewal for 40 years in Ireland. It was a very well-known place. We had been working in the center of Belfast, in a very poor area. We didn't own a single house. It was just, we had 5, 6, 7 houses dotted around a particular area. And we were kind of generally always doing what we could to make ends meet, and managed to run a bunch of schools and outreach programs in Belfast during that time. But then all of a sudden we were given this place, and it was out of the blue. We moved down here, and I suppose the point of this talk is to talk about authentic community. And we were asked to talk about what does it mean to do authentic community, not just in the sense of have a YWAM authentic community, but how to be an authentic community among a village of people, many of whom are obviously not YWAMers and many of whom are not even Christians. How can you be a community builder, not just of your own people, but in a wider area? And so we moved down here, and straight away, I think one of the very initial senses I had this kind of picture of our building surrounded by a huge wall, and on the wall were the words YWAM. And I felt like it was a warning to us not to create a YWAM presence here that was like a gated community that had a big wall that the only people that could come in were YWAMers. And so we wanted to create a community that didn't have walls. It was open to the outside world. A few years ago, we were running an event here. There was a couple of hundred people in a concert in the front, in our big hall. There were kids all over the front lawn. There was a cafe running with dozens of people in it. And one of the kind of main musicians in this area came up to me and he said, it feels like, Jonny, this is the warm beating heart of this community. And that for us describes what we felt like we wanted to be. We wanted not just to be a YWAM base that was like gated off and walled off. We wanted to be a place that would be nourishing and a blessing to the local people. So we had to find ways to let the local people come in here, because all they knew was it was a big kind of Christian place. They thought it was some kind of cult. So how were we going to intentionally create an environment in a sense that everyone was welcome? So that's what we kind of set to work trying to figure out how to do. And so what did we do, Jen?
Yes, we tried our best to do that. So I remember, it was a very big transition from going from an urban ministry where everything was kind of fought for, sort of tooth and nail, to being sort of gifted with this amazing opportunity to have this center. And I remember one of the things that God sort of spoke to us was this idea of flinging the doors open, just wide. And I think that's what we tried to do. So we came in very much with a posture, rather than coming in with a big plan or 5-year plan of how we're going to do this and this and this program. We came in and said, well, let's seek to serve. Let's seek to listen. Let's seek to notice what's around us and how we can then respond to those needs. And that's very much what we tried to do. So one of the first things we did was the parent and toddler group, which was wonderful. There were a lot of local mums, and Rostrevor is a wee village, so there's lots of pensioners and lots of young families. And I knew at that point we had 2 boys, and our 3rd boy was born whilst living here. And we started that. And some of the most lasting friendships I've had in this village developed out of those times together. So every Friday morning, it was meant to be from 10 to 11:30, but often we'd be lingering with each other until lunchtime, and the kids would be playing out on the green. And
a lot of those friendships have stayed friendships to this day.
Yeah, it was sustained and been a wonderful thing. And we also have a lot of artists and musicians and craftspeople in the village. And I thought, well, what a great opportunity to be able to open our big hall and have people just come and display their artwork and be proud and sort of sell to each other and barter. And so what came out of those times was just community and rhythm and life and fun and togetherness. And that became a real rhythm of how an idea of like how we were going to use this place that God gave us. We ran concerts and gigs and folk festivals and all sorts of things, all with the kind of mindset of, scripture that God spoke to us, I think, was in Timothy. It's not for silver and gold and for precious things. It's not what's tangible on this earth is what matters. It's people and it's the hearts. So we've always sought to, I feel, use this building as a conduit, as a serve to continually pour out and to reach our neighbors and to include. I think it's probably just an extension of who we probably are as people, and it's just like we are just in this business because we love God and we love community, we love people, and I suppose that's been kind of the continuing.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that was very helpful for us in coming here is that we had been in the inner city of Belfast, and so Belfast obviously was all about mission. Coming to a place like this, it was easy for people to think, oh, you're going to run a training base. And from the very beginning, we were like, we don't really want to run a training base. We want to run a healthy, living community that out of its natural life sends people around the world. We called the place An Cuan, which is Irish for harbour. And the sense was we wanted it to be a place where boats come and are repaired, but then the boats are sent out. A friend of mine said boats are built for harbours, but boats aren't boats are safe in harbours, but boats aren't built for harbours. We wanted to be a place that would send teams out to our focus nations, which are all post-conflict nations around the world. But what's the point of sending them to Bujumbura in Burundi or Beirut in Lebanon if we don't know the name of our next-door neighbor? And so we wanted to be authentically here and present. And I think for me, that's one of the marks of a healthy YWAM base, when they're not just a bubble that is kind of almost exclusive and has no connection to the outside world. But a healthy YWAM base is a place where the local community, Christians or not, can walk through our doors and walk up and down our corridors and feel like it's their building as much as ours. And that's very much what we've tried to do here. I guess just some practical things that Jen said we did. We hosted folk festivals and concerts and gigs, and the parent and toddler group that Jen set up at the very early days. We've also had open mic nights. A couple of people have actually got recording contracts now. The first place they ever played publicly was our open mic night. We had sewing groups for years. We've got singing groups that come in here and use our rooms.
And retreats, cinema clubs,
kids,
and
Lego clubs,
art clubs,
cinema clubs, art clubs. Yeah, loads of kind of, we just basically have put a message out that we are open for local community to use. And through it all, people meet Jesus in it. They meet Jesus through our staff who are serving, and what we like to say, being Jesus with skin on. If that's not authentic Christian community, then I don't know what is. We are all meant to be a living embodiment, the hands and feet of Jesus wherever we are. And so, yeah, that's kind of been our work here over the years. And
it's not complicated. I think it's just sort of a simple sort of yes to an invitation to live like Jesus lived. I mean, as best we can, and giving what we have to give and sharing what we have to share and giving our loaves and fish and letting God bless it.
Yeah. A friend of mine, a friend of ours, Padraig Otuma, who used to be in YWAM for years, he wrote a book last year called In the Shelter, and it's from an Irish proverb, really, that says, in the shelter of each other, the people live. And I think YWAM would be drastically renovated for the good if we could envisage our communities and bases as places of shelter for each other, but for people outside of ourselves. Not just to run training courses for shelter, but actually being a place for others like that. Imagine what it would be like if every person you're going to meet in your local community, you might know them in 20 years. Let that shape the way you do mission. That's the way we try to do our mission here, is to think that everyone we're going to meet, we're going to know them in 20 years. So whatever we do right now should be building towards a 20-year long-term relationship with them, not just short-term in and out. Healthy, authentic communities think long-term. They think about depth of relationship, and they create a space for belonging. And in the midst of it, we do loads of YWAM stuff too. So there's always room to do it. But so that's kind of, in a nutshell, how we've tried to do this thing called authentic community. And I think we should all be trying to build that wherever we are. Thanks.